Out Recovery Hour. I'm Bob Sharits, and I'd like to wish everybody happy Monday. You know, every Monday I get to come on in here and kind of offer you a different perspective on the week ahead. And today's a little bit different in the sense that, I want to say Happy New Year instead of just Happy Monday, and offer you a reflection on a couple of different things as we settle into the show. The week ahead of us, or maybe the year ahead of us, if you're sitting back going, oh my gosh, I got so many things to do, and it looks like it's a big daunting prospect, and you're not really looking forward to going into it, the week, the month, or the year, I want to offer you the perspective of looking at all the maybe challenges that you have coming up in front of you, maybe the different obstacles that you get to face and the different things that we get to persevere through, and look at them as opportunities to really grow and be better people, to really have an opportunity to get out there and help people that are in need, to ease people's suffering, to open up conversations with people you've maybe never had a conversation with before. And rather than look at the week in front of you and go, oh my gosh, as we typically sometimes do on Mondays, we get to look at this week in front of us and go, oh my gosh, what a wonderful opportunity for personal growth and to interact and have those personal relationships and help people. Another thing that we get to do, it's a extremely special show today in the sense that, it's our last show of 2018. And so we can sit here and reflect a little bit back on all the wonderful things that we got to experience in this last year, as well as, dare I say, the wonderful challenges and the obstacles and the things that were difficult for us in this last year. One of the things that I like to do in my life, and this hasn't always been the case, and it's not always the case, it takes a lot of work to get to a spot where I kind of look through the lens of, although this might be a difficult time that I'm going through, or although I may have faced some challenges that I thought I might never get through, that I get to look at those as I'm going into them as an opportunity for growth. And that's not always easy to do when you're faced with something that is downright terrifying, or sad, or something that you just don't want to show up for. That I know without a shadow of a doubt that the things that seem to have been the worst in my life at the time have turned out to be the greatest assets, have turned out to be the greatest opportunities and the greatest moments of growth in my life as well. And so if you're sitting here reflecting on some of the trials and tribulations that you faced last year, along with all the wonderful things that have happened and the growth that you have had, or if you're sitting here in the middle of something, I want to offer you this, that you may not be able to see it as you sit in it right now, but I can guarantee you that if you push forward and you keep showing up for whatever this challenge is in your life, that on the other side of it is a big new period of growth for you, that there is going to be some joy in it, that there's going to be some wonder in it, and that there's going to be opportunity at the end of the day to pass it on to somebody else and to help somebody else with the difficulties that you're facing. So not exactly sure what our show is going to look like today. I'm just going to kind of go with it. I have a lot to talk about, but fear not, we are going to have a show. But I want to start off by saying thank you to some of the people in my life that have made a huge difference in 2018. I want to start off by saying thank you to KHTS. We've had an opportunity to be on their format, on their program, one of the shows in their weekly lineup, and what a wonderful opportunity. First of all, my own relationship with Carl and Jerry, and what a wonderful thing that is. along with the rest of the KHTS staff. Incredible people over here. We love them very much, and what a great opportunity personally and professionally that this has been. And I'm really, really grateful going into 2019 that we get to continue that relationship so that we can show up here every week and provide information to those who can use it out in the Santa Clarita Valley. You know, one of the wonderful things that we have in Santa Clarita, and maybe one of the most wonderful things that we have, is this radio station and this opportunity to get our information and highlight wonderful programs and wonderful people on KHTS. So I can't say enough about my gratitude to them. And then I also want to say, a word of thanks really to everybody who's involved in the Way Out recovery, to the coworkers, to the owners, to everybody who comes through, and especially to the clients and their families who have come through in this last year and will continue with us into 2019. You guys enhance my life, and you are bringing such a ray of hope and such a brightness to the Santa Clarita Valley in the world of addiction and mental health. Sometimes, I don't necessarily know that we sit and take enough time to understand that the counselors and the people that are involved in the recovery process can sometimes be the only light in a person's life. And I'm glad that we have become this beacon of light in the Santa Clarita Valley, in the sometimes really dark world of addiction, that we've brought hope there, and that this team at the Way Out Recovery has been able to bring hope to families and to individuals who may not have otherwise seen hope in a long time. And so, I'm intensely grateful to be a part of that organization. To call myself the program director and to be on the front lines of it and working with those families and with those individuals, as well as having this opportunity and being blessed with the ability to get out here and do this radio show, as well as to get out in the public and host events and public information, and to get out in the schools and in the sheriff's department and with the city of Santa Clarita and do the work that we're doing. The Way Out Recovery is an intensive outpatient program. If you haven't come by and visited us, we just got a facelift over there. So we've done some painting, put in a new floor, and really kind of put a little touch up on the place, and it's just gorgeous. Not that it hasn't always been, but it is just gorgeous in the last month or so. We've really been doing some work over there. We are located at 28118 Bouquet Canyon. It is on the corner of Plum Canyon and Bouquet Canyon. And we're in the same shopping center. There's a Vincenzo's and a La Casina and a 7-Eleven in that shopping center. We're on the same side as a 7-Eleven, all the way down at the other end. If you're out and about and you're in that area, please come on by and pay us a visit. We would love to show you the place. We're always open to visitors to sit down and talk about, if you're in need, or someone you love is in need, or you just want to drop by and you're in the recovery process and want to tell us how great you're doing, or not, then drop on by and pay us a visit. We would love to sit down and have a cup of coffee and chat for a while. You can also reach us if you or a loved one needs help in the world of substance abuse or mental health issues, whether it's teenagers, adults, family members, or anybody else that you love. Excuse me. Drop on by and pay us a visit, or give us a call at 296-4444. And you can visit our website, of course, at thewayoutrocoveryscv.com. And you can always call me on my cell phone. I'm at 661-383-6550. I'd be happy to take anybody's call. You can send me a personal email, bob@thewayoutrocoveryscv.com. And you can also, if you're on our website at thewayoutrocoveryscv.com, you can submit information for a personalized assessment. You can ask us any questions that you want through that format, and we'll be happy to answer you. So give us a call. Remember that asking for help is the first step, and we would be happy to help you in any way that we can. We'll be right back in a couple of minutes, and we'll see where this show goes coming into the new year. Happy coming up 2019 to everybody. Happy Monday. We'll be back in a couple of minutes.
You already know Salt Creek Grill has the best food in our valley. Well, now you can have Salt Creek's gourmet meals catered to your event.
I'm Greg Amsler, owner of Salt Creek Grill. I'd like to introduce you to a new level of catering, featuring our catering director, Tamara Levine.
Salt Creek Grill creates memorable experiences, which leaves our clients and guests with a sense of awe and excitement. From menu development to picturesque presentation, you'll enjoy culinary excellence and creative catering.
Salt Creek Grill, a new level of catering.
Mission Valley Bank is a commercial bank in the Santa Clarita Valley that really puts the community into community banking.
At Mission Valley Bank, we strive to be a trusted advisor to our clients, and that means being an integral part of the communities we serve. We started the Give Where You Live program to help bring awareness to our nonprofit partners. We're more than just a local business bank. In fact, we're a full-service, independent commercial bank that is locally owned, community-minded, and relationship-driven. I'm Tamara Gurney, President and CEO of Mission Valley Bank, and I invite you to experience the Mission Valley Bank difference, where your success is our mission. We want to be your most valued bank.
Mission Valley Bank has been named Most Trusted Advisor Business Banker by the San Fernando Valley Business Journal 5 years in a row, and received the Business Leadership Award by the Santa Clarita Valley Chamber of Commerce, Valley Industry Association, and SCV Economic Development Corporation. Visit them at their Center Point branch location or at missionvalleybank.com. Member FDIC.
At Advanced Audiology, we know how important hearing is to you, your loved ones, your work success, your safety, and your ability to stay in the game. Most people won't admit hearing loss to themselves or others. We make it easy for you. Today's digital hearing aids come in a variety of styles, including invisible. All feature-rich, providing unparalleled hearing quality, wearing comfort, and automation that simplifies your life. Don't be fooled by our imitators. There's only one Advanced Audiology with the purple sign next to AAA on Valencia Boulevard.
Dunkin' Donuts now has breakfast and snacks all day long. Introducing Dunkin' Go-Tos.
5 different snacks for $2 each. Donut fries, pretzel bites and mustard, fudge brownie, waffle breaded chicken tenders, or ham and cheese roll-ups. Open early on Bouquet Canyon and on Sierra Highway in Canyon Country.
All-day breakfast sandwiches, bagels, muffins, and their famous coffee and donuts just baked and filled in their store.
Fast in and out, America runs on Dunkin'.
KHTS. Now FM, 98.1 FM, and AM 1220, your hometown station.
Welcome back to the Way Out Recovery Hour. I'm Bob Sharits, and if you are just joining us, I want to maybe be the first one to wish you a happy 2019. Probably not the first one, but I definitely want to, I want to offer you some reflection on 2018, whether you consider it a good year, a bad year, or somewhere in between. What a great opportunity we have as we sit here today to reflect back maybe on the so-called bad stuff that happened more than the good stuff that happened. And the only reason I say that is because we really have an opportunity to change our perspective on whether or not we want to consider that stuff bad. And personally for me, the things that I have grown the most from in my life and the things that have actually turned out to be the greatest asset in my life in terms of helping other people when they're going through stuff if you would have asked me at the time that I was going through it, I probably would have told you, no, I don't want this thing. I don't want to experience this thing that I'm going through. And I would probably say I'd give anything to take this away. But now that I'm on the other side of some of those seemingly bad events, I'll tell you that I would never trade them for anything, you know. And so as we sit here at the tail end of 2018, maybe that's the thing that I want to offer you the most today, is an opportunity to look back with a different set of glasses, with a different perspective on those things that seemed so hard this last year, and to think about the growth that you are experiencing or have experienced from those tough things. You know, as a end of the year show, or maybe a beginning of the year coming into 2019 show, I was thinking, okay, what am I going to do on this? You know, it's a sort of a turning point, a special occasion. And I thought, you know, we could do a bunch of call-ins and have people call in and talk about what they were so grateful for in 2018, or talk about the things that they have gone through. But in keeping with the purpose of this show, what I would like to talk about today is I'd like to talk about addiction. I want to talk, and I really want to sort of highlight, because sometimes we forget how severe addiction is, not only locally, nationwide, worldwide, and then, of course, to bring it back personally. I don't know a person in the world who isn't touched by addiction in some way or another. For some people, it's a lot closer to home. You know, some of you guys are sitting out there listening, and I don't have to tell you how severe it is. Some of you guys, maybe in this last year, have experienced within your own home, either yourself going through addiction, excuse me, or struggling with, you know, what that feels like, or dare I say even worse, to watch somebody else suffer and not be able to do anything about it, or feel like you can't do anything about it. There is a lot that we can do. And as we progress through the show today, I'm going to talk about what that is. I just want to give you a couple of recent statistics when it comes to addiction, you know, in terms of severity. 2/3 of all families in the United States have been directly affected by addiction. So 2/3, 2 out of 3, you know, look around you as you sit. I don't know where you're at right now, but look around you as you sit. And if there's, you know, for every 3 people that you're looking at, 2 of them has in their own household been affected by addiction. If you are one of those 2 out of 3, you know, I don't have to tell you what it feels like. I don't have to tell you what it feels like to watch somebody suffer and to feel like you can't do anything about it, and to try all kinds of different ways to, you know, to try to get them to stop by either threatening or crying or pleading or whatever methods that we try, and we will try anything to not have our loved ones suffering. Or if you're the person who's been suffering and day after day, you're like I was for a very long time, where after one more time doing something either at the very least embarrassing and at the very most damaging, or even you know, hurtful, after an event like that, in a blackout or under the influence, or on my way to get something, or in the throes of the cravings that drive me to get the next drink or drug, how I would do those things, and the very next day I would say to myself, God, man, you got to stop doing this. And I would beat myself up and feel so ashamed for the things that I had done. And I'd say, today's going to be the day that I stop. And by the end of the day or the end of the week, I would be up and doing it again. And I would sit in those moments of reflection, like some of you may be doing as we sit here right now, sitting in those moments of reflection and calling myself bad and stupid and weak and why can't you just stop, and trying with everything that I possibly could to stop and not being able to do that. So 2 out of 3 families are experiencing that as we sit here right now. 2 out of 3 families in America are affected. Alcohol-related deaths. This is just alcohol. And interesting about drugs. I don't necessarily like to do this, but I think as a society or historically, what we traditionally do is we target one drug at a time. And for the last 10 years, we've been really talking primarily about opiates and heroin and all the, for good reason. There's a lot of deaths behind those particular drugs, whether they're prescription opiates or heroin or other street drugs that have opiates in them. But we sort of historically or typically target one drug at a time, and we sort of allow the other drugs to take a back seat. Make no mistake about it, a drug is a drug is a drug, and they are all damaging. But when it comes to numbers, the number one most dangerous drug there is, if I was to ask that, and I do sometimes, and most people will say heroin because we hear about it, or they'll say opiates, or they might say fentanyl, or those types of drugs. And in terms of lethality, maybe that's true. A lot more people dying as a direct result from overdoses on those drugs than a lot of the other drugs. But the drug that causes more problems and more damage, whether it is economically or physically, is nicotine. Nicotine is number one, causes more deaths than any other drug that there is. But one that we overlook that is second is alcohol. We don't oftentimes talk about the dangers of alcohol, but there are more problems in the world of drug addiction caused by alcohol than any other drug other than nicotine, of course. Nicotine's a tough one because it's not direct damage. You don't take a hit and die like you do sometimes using opiates. And when I talk about this stuff and I make a statement like that, I'm certainly not making any kind of light of any of these drugs, or I'm not minimizing any of these drugs, but it's hard to see the damage of nicotine because it's not immediate right now death. The problem with nicotine is by the time you hit a bottom, it may take you 40 years, but you're not coming back from it. There's no return on a lot of the damaging effects of nicotine. But second to that is alcohol. And alcohol-related deaths, just for numbers, alcohol-related deaths is the third leading preventable cause of death in the United States. Third leading cause of preventable, and that's what makes it so tough. Is that deaths around mental health issues and drug addiction are preventable if people could just get to treatment, if people had the right treatment, if people were able to access that treatment, we would be saving a lot more lives. And so it's preventable. So maybe it's more frustrating because it's preventable. 88,000 people a year, at least in 2015, right? And so it's probably a little bit more than that because the numbers don't change much. In 2015, according to SAMHSA, 88,000 deaths attributed to alcohol-related deaths. In terms of mental illness, 18.1% of the United States population, 18 years old plus, suffer from some form of mental illness. 12 years old plus, 8.4% are diagnosable with a substance use disorder. It doesn't mean that there's not a lot more people that don't have problems with drugs and alcohol, but there are certain criteria to be diagnosed with a substance use disorder. 8.4% of the population of the United States over the age of 12 is diagnosable with a substance use disorder. 42.7% of that population has both. So almost half of the people that suffer from mental illness and or substance use disorders have both going on. And I would gather to say, I mean, that's the statistic according to SAMHSA, but I would gather to say that the percentage is probably higher than that. Oftentimes we don't see, and maybe this is one of the reasons why substance use disorders are so very difficult to treat, is for a lot of people, they are what's called self-medicating, using the drugs. And so oftentimes we don't even know that we have these underlying mental health issues until we try to stop using the drugs. And when we stop using the drugs, we find out that it is, dare I say, always, I'm going to say almost always, very rarely in treatment do we get somebody who stops drinking and using drugs and all of a sudden everything is peachy keen and everything's cool. What happens is, we get people that come in and they maintain abstinence or they achieve abstinence, so they get off of everything, and then all of a sudden they start to see how difficult the normal facets of life are for them. A lot of the work that we do, and maybe all of the work that we do at some point with every client and their family members that we have over at The Way Out, is working on the things that drive the addictions, the things that are underneath the addictions, the contributing factors, right? So we get asked, or I get asked a lot of times, what causes addiction, or, because there's a lot of people out there, believe it or not, that use drugs and they drink or both, and they aren't necessarily drug addicts, that if given a sufficient enough reason, that if something happens in their life that gives them reason to stop, that they have the ability to stop and to stay stopped, and their lives don't spiral out of control when they stop. But for the percentage that is diagnosable with a substance use disorder, it's a whole different ballgame. And so the work that we do, and that just about any treatment center does, is once the drug use stops, now we start looking at the other underlying issues. Family dynamics that sometimes go back multi-generations, communication issues, family interactions, different ways of coping, unhealthy coping with different aspects of life. Then we come into mental health issues, people with anxiety, social anxiety, panic disorders, all kinds of different situational anxieties, depressions, different types of mental health issues, all over that spectrum, whether it's depressive disorders, anxiety disorders, schizophrenias. There are a lot of different disorders that fall in the world of mental health, and those things start to surface as well. A lot of stuff that we do is education on dangers of using drugs. When we get people in our treatment center and they have younger siblings or children, one of the things that we like to do is to give an education to the younger kids long before, and I like to do this out in the schools as well, long before a person decides that they're going to experiment or picks up a drug or starts drinking or smoking or whatever. Let's talk about genetics and how much of a part that plays. Statistically speaking, if you have one parent or grandparent that has issues with drugs and alcohol, that you're 4 times more likely to have those issues yourself. And that if both parents have issues with drugs and alcohol, or both grandparents, that you're 8 times more likely to have issues yourself. And it's important to turn that information on to our younger generation so that they're armed and they know that they can get out of control, much easier than someone else. Environment plays a huge part in whether or not a person is going to become a drug addict, more so if they're going to start using. And, obviously, if a person doesn't use, then, there's not any danger of becoming an addict, right? But something else that I think is important to understand for those of you that are teenagers or have teenagers, the longer you can prolong somebody's drug use from the beginning, the better chance that they have. The longer that a person waits to start using, the less of a chance they have to become diagnosably in the world of addiction and substance use disorder and addiction. And so the older a person is when they start, the less likely they are. Environment plays a huge part in that. I was having coffee with my brother. Interesting. So I met with a guy this morning at the treatment center to see if our treatment center was going to be the right fit for him. Prior to that, earlier this morning, I was having coffee with my brother. And it's interesting because I had the same conversation in both of those. My brother and I were talking about, alcohol and the attitude of alcohol in our families. And it's not that everybody in my household or in my generations of drinkers are alcoholics. There are some, but the attitude about drinking is just about everybody always drank. I remember growing up as a kid, and my parents were always drinking. I remember taking sips off my mom's wine glass when I was a kid, just because it was there, right? And that goes along with attitudes about drug use as well. In the world today, where there's lax attitudes about marijuana and about vaping and about different other drugs, exposure, if you're doing that in front of your kids and it's like no big deal, and that's what we do to take off the edge, and that's what we do to manage our stress, that's what we're teaching our kids as well. And if that's the attitude inside of our home, you better believe that the kids are going to use those coping skills as well. And so environment plays a huge part. Access to drugs. If there's drugs laying around the house, the kids are going to get at it. I remember being very young, and although so my stepdad smoked pot, and although they weren't smoking it with us, I knew that they had it. And I remember when I started smoking pot, I was rummaging through the house trying to find some, and I always found some. It was in their stuff, right? And so just having drugs in the house gave me access to drugs inside of that house. Now, I'm not certainly in any way blaming him for my own drug addiction. Maybe I would have went and sought it somewhere else, but I was more likely to use it because it was right there in the house, right? And so environment plays a huge part, and attitude about drug use plays a huge part as well. If, I might upset some people when I say this, but oh well. If you are growing up in today's world where using marijuana is sort of cavalier and whatever, and you are telling your kids it's cool and it's okay, I'm going to say this on air. Shame on you. Because it's not cool. Even the advocates of marijuana today are never going to advocate teenagers using pot. They're not, right? Is all the laws that are out there, recreational, medical, none of them are designed for kids. But yet with our lackadaisical attitudes about marijuana today, we could inadvertently, or maybe sometimes on purpose, I've met people who think it's cool that their kids smoke pot. But on purpose or otherwise, we may be sending a message to our kids that a drug is going to be the answer for them, that a drug is going to be the thing that answers their problems, that's going to be the coping skill for that. And so we need to take a real close look at our attitudes inside of our homes as to whether or not we want to pass that on to our kids, And so you ask yourself, if you have that kind of attitude, and maybe I was a little bit shaming in that, and I don't mean to be, I always want to be kind and loving in my approach. So if you're hearing this and going, oh my God, maybe I do have that attitude that I need to take a look at with my kids, now's a great time to start to change that, and to ask yourself, with my attitude, am I promoting drug use inside of my own home just by my lax attitude about it, or the way that I speak about marijuana use, or alcohol use, or nicotine use, or any other drug use? Sometimes it happens with prescription medications as well. So what I'm trying to do here, and I hope you're listening to this, is to be able to say, this is not just some issue that those people have. 2/3, right? 2/3 of families are directly affected. If it hasn't hit your home, it probably will. If your kids haven't been exposed to it, they probably will. We live in a world today where drugs are stronger than they've ever been. They're more available than they've ever been. They're cheaper than they've ever been, and they're everywhere. And so we have to take a new attitude about drug use and about what it is, and we need to be honest about it. This is a very severe issue. Now, when we come back, I want to roll right into the side of hope, because as I talk about this stuff, I don't want you to think, oh my God, this is such a horrible issue that we can't do anything about it. We also live in a world today where treatment is more available. Treatment is better and more effective than it's ever been. And there are more people getting clean and sober younger than there ever has been in history. And so when we come back, I want to offer you some tools on how you can help a loved one do that. And we'll roll into the second half of the show like that. I'm Bob Sharits. This is the Way Out Recovery Hour. We'll be back in a couple of minutes.
I just want to send a shout out to all my customers. It's Dave Reeves from Reeves Complete Auto Center in Canyon Country.
Reeves, Santa Clarita's choice for quality customer and automotive care.
I've been in automotive service my whole life. I learned customer service and honest communication make the difference.
Reeves, where customers matter.
I really appreciate your business and hope to serve you in the future. Thank you very much.
Reeves, on Ruther in Canyon Country.
KHTS Traffic is brought to you by Frontier Toyota. Check out their all-new, hot and exciting 2018 Toyota Camry. Frontier Toyota, the Camry Kings. They're tops in Tacoma and Tundra trucks. Shop from home at frontiertoyota.com or visit their showroom on Valencia and Creekside. Frontier Toyota.
The Art Gallery of Santa Clarita Artists Association, located in downtown Newhall on 6th Street between Railroad and Main, features local members' original artwork with changing exhibits every 2 months. Purchase affordable art for your home or as gifts. Open Friday through Sunday or by appointment. Artists wishing to join the SCAA can visit santaclaritaartist.org, come to our free monthly meetings at Barnes & Noble, or stop by the gallery. For upcoming shows, check us out at santaclaritaartist.org. We make visual art visible.
Hey there, it's Tori with your hometown station weather. Mostly sunny but windy today, a high of only 57 degrees. More the same tomorrow. However, the winds calm down on Wednesday, but still chilly with a high of 61. For anything and everything Santa Clarita Valley related, go to hometownstation.com or find KHTS on social media at KHTS Radio.
Your hometown station.
Kid that came up to me and said I was the music they listened to when they first got clean. Now look at me, a couple days sober, I'm fighting demons.
Welcome back to the Way Out Recovery Hour. I'm Bob Sharits, and I want to wish everyone the very tail end happy 2018, rolling into 2019. Take a minute to get grateful for the wonderful experiences that you've had in 2018. But, I'm going to throw this out there. If you're just joining us, also take a moment to get grateful for the so-called bad stuff that you've experienced in 2018, My experience is this, is that if you would have asked me in the moments of the things that I wish would have never happened to me, I would have told you, take this stuff away. But now that I'm on the other side of some of those seemingly bad events, I have a measure of growth from those experiences. I have grown more from the bad stuff than I have from the good stuff. And we don't oftentimes see that. And especially when we're in it. If you're sitting here and you're in the middle of something right now that just feels like it's the end of the world, I want to encourage you to hang on. Hang on, ask for help, talk to somebody that you love or that you know. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that you can do out there. in the Santa Clarita Valley, we have incredible organizations and people that are willing to help you with any issue that you might be going through. And remember that asking for help is the first step. The Way Out Recovery can help you with just about anything. If we are not equipped to do that, we will make sure that you get to the right person. Call us at 661-296-4444. Go to our website, thewayoutrrecoveryscv.com, or you can send me an email if you'd like, bob@thewayoutrrecoveryscv.com. If you're just joining me, I'm flying solo today talking about addiction, and I just spent, about the last 20 minutes really kind of hoping to allow us to feel how severe the world of substance use and mental health is and can be, because oftentimes, it's interesting. It's one of, maybe it is the most pervasive and damaging issues. I'm talking specifically drug addiction, but along with that goes mental health. The most pervasive and damaging issue or set of issues that we have, certainly locally, nationwide, and globally. But yet it's one of the things, maybe is the biggest thing, that nobody really wants to take a look at. Nobody wants to. We all want to hope it's going to get better, and we want to pretend it's not there, and we want to sidestep it and not have those conversations. And maybe right now is the spotlight of time, and during the holiday season when that happens the most. We all come together and we're like, oh, let's not make Christmas awkward. Let's just not talk about that thing, right? I want to tell you this, there's never going to be a good time to talk about it. There's never going to be an optimum time when we go, okay, now's the time when we're all feeling good enough to talk about that heroin addiction that so-and-so has, right? It's never going to feel good. It's never going to be easy, but it's never going to be more necessary than it is right now. So if you're sitting here and you are hearing this and you have an issue, or you're not even sure that you do, ask somebody for help. Give us a call. Give me a call. I'd be happy to talk to you about what's going on in your life. If you're sitting here right now and you're listening to this, and someone you love is suffering as well, and you're not sure what to do about that, call somebody, ask for help, because it's never going to be easy and it's never going to feel like the right time. We just have to take the step on that. And I want to tell you that when you do, there's hope. There is change that takes place. I know hundreds and hundreds, possibly thousands, but certainly hundreds of close people in my life. I could go through my phone right now, and just about every number in that phone is a person that's in recovery. And every one of those people we could have a conversation with, including myself, that there was a point in our lives before we turned the corner on recovery, before we asked for help, before we hit that bottom, before there was that intervention, before our loved ones stepped in and said enough is enough, where I would have told you there is no hope. There is no change. There's no way that I can get better. And here I sit today, right? And here are hundreds of people that I know that are not only clean and sober and living beautiful lives, but they're in these lives that are productive and worthwhile, and we have meaning, purpose, and value. And life is not just something. I don't wake up in the morning going, oh my God, another day. I wake up in the morning going, yes, man, I get to experience this beautiful, just wide open world in front of me, and I get real excited, as you can tell, when I'm talking about the recovery process, because I'm really, really passionate about that, because it's happened in my own life. Now, it didn't just happen. I want to tell you that there is a process that you can take that works if you follow it, right? And it's going to be a little bit different for everybody, but it always starts with an admission. So I have to stop denying that there's any kind of problem, whether that's me or a family member. And I have to say, and maybe right now I walk into the living room full of people and I go, you know what? We're going to talk about this. There is a problem here, and I'm not going to stay silent anymore. Or maybe I walk in, or maybe very, very quietly I say to somebody, I'm struggling and I need some help. Whatever that admission looks like, or maybe it's just internal. I'm sitting here by myself and I'm thinking, man, I got to do something about this problem. That admission must come. After that admission, what I have to do is I have to stop trying to do it myself. Many of us have tried to lick this problem by ourselves. We've put willpower into it. We've put muscle into it. We've put money into it. We've put everything into it, and trying to do it our way by ourselves. And what we find is that we keep hitting that wall. And I described for you earlier, you know, the way that I felt when I would come to or realize, oh my God, I did it again yesterday, or I did it again last week. The way that I would feel because I was trying to do it by myself. I felt, you're stupid, you're weak, you're crazy, you don't have enough willpower. I used to beat myself up because I didn't have the power to stop it on my own. And what I found out was another necessary component for me was after that I admitted that I had a problem. And for me, that was to myself. I said, I can't do this anymore. And I had this moment, right? I'm sitting in this place, and I had this moment where this idea came into my head, and it sounded something like this, and this is not self-shaming or otherwise. It sounded something like this. It's all your fault, Bob. Like I took ownership of it. Not like I created it, but like I need to realize that, because I blamed everything else. You know, it was the house I grew up in. It was the place that I lived. It was because I didn't have this or that or the other thing. And I blamed everything else on my problems. And I realized that my own behaviors, my drug use specifically, was causing all the problems in my life. And so I had this moment where I realized that, and I sort of fell to my knees and said, I can't do this anymore. Like, I don't have the power to do it. And I gave that up, and there was this moment of surrender. Now, admitting to it and surrendering to that, and surrendering does not fix it overnight, right? I had to seek help after that. I could not do it by myself. Personally, what I did is I asked some friends, and I ended up signing up for an outpatient program. And I started going to some 12-step meetings. So I was in an outpatient program and going to some 12-step meetings. And what happened is when I walked in there, I was willing to do what the next necessary step is, and that's take direction. I admitted that I didn't know anything at all about stopping and staying stopped from my drugs. And I had to ask people who had gone before me, and I had to ask professionals, and I had to take direction. What do I do and how do I stop? And I had to actually follow those directions. One of the directions that they gave me right away is another component to the recovery process, and that was for me to take responsibility of the things that I had been doing. And I already told you I had that moment, right? But it was to continue to take responsibility. And what I mean by that is, here's a for instance, right? I spent a lot of my life blaming my dad for all of my problems. And the reason that I say that is because I grew up in this house with an alcoholic father, right? And so I would use this excuse for my own bad behaviors that if you grew up in that house and that's what you were taught, you would do it too. And I spent a whole lot of time having this resentment towards my dad. And it was very interesting is that when I took responsibility for just my actions and I stopped looking at his side of it, what happened for me was I started to see that the things that I had done that I regretted the most under the influence and in my addiction were the same things that I was mad at my dad for. And he was doing, and what I started to realize was maybe he was doing those things in his own addiction and he didn't mean to do them either. And there was this level of forgiveness that came up. And what happened was I was able to call my dad and not look at his stuff at all and to just say, I haven't been the greatest son and I haven't treated you fairly. And I took responsibility for my own actions and I changed that relationship with my dad. Now, my dad today is the same person that he's always been, but I don't look at him the same. I love him with everything that I have. I feel for his alcoholism and I offer my help. And what can I do as your son to try to help you through this process and to try to get better? And it's not the same. My perception changed because I took ownership, right? I had to change everything in my life as well. I had to cultivate new habits. You know, I had to start eating right and exercising and meditating and speaking right and dressing right. And just, I had to change things, right? And as I started to do that, my behavior changed. I didn't stack up any new problems in my life, and things just started to clean up over the years. now that I'm living this new life, how do I keep this, this new life? How do I keep from all those old issues that I grew up with? And there's a lot of stuff to clean up, which we obviously can't get into today, but a lot of stuff to clean up. Underlying mental health issues and family dynamics and all that stuff. Now that I'm spent years cleaning that stuff out, how do I keep that clean? And maybe this is the thing that we cultivate the most, and that is to seek spirituality. And I don't know what that is for every person. For some people, it might be religion. For some people, it might be a walk outside. But what I do is I sit and I get myself into a place of absolute gratitude for this beautiful world around me. And I try to get close to whatever that power is that's running through all this stuff. Some of you might call it God, and some of you might call it nature, and some of you might call it whatever you're going to call. But I have practices in my life that allow me to grow that spirituality so that as I walk through the world, I'm a better person. I'm not treating everybody the way that I used to treat them. And at the end of this, as we wrap up the show, I want to tell you the thing that means the most to me and the thing that is probably the greatest aspect of my recovery process today is that every day when I get up, the thing that I say to myself is, how can I give this thing away today? How can I go out into the world and look for other people that are suffering and try to ease their suffering and try to give them this beautiful thing called recovery that I have found? And when I'm giving it away like that, it is absolutely to help them. But I'll tell you, there's a side benefit, is that I feel like I have meaning, purpose, and value today. Not only do I feel that way, I have meaning, value, and purpose today, and I get to give it away. And like I said at the beginning, the thing that I thought was the worst thing that could ever happen to anybody has turned out to be the greatest gift that I have. So happy 2018. Happy 2019. If you're not grateful, get grateful. If you need help doing that, give me a call. Please call me on my cell phone, 661-383-6550. I'm Bob Sharits. This is the Way Out Recovery Hour, and we'll listen to everybody next week.
Your hometown station.